Well, hello there everyone, and how are you guys today? Baby Crone is keeping warm in this weather. I hope you guys are. Man, we're only getting to, well, Sagittarius is coming up soon. We're switching over from the middle of fall to the end of fall on the 22nd of November. So we're just almost out of fall, just one more month. But it's already so cold. It's like Sagittarius is hailing in early, like, hey, winter's coming, and I'm just like, no, please. I like to stay warm. Look how cute this is. Anyway, but keeping warm and cute. Let's get started with aspects today. I am back because I had a two-part video on aspects, and I was a bit long-winded in my last video, but hopefully that long-windedness will cause for this video to be slightly less long, like maybe like not too long, because honestly this is just like building on the information that I had already taught previously, because well, actually I am going to be breaking down the aspects as I talk about aspect patterns, because these lines do make up patterns, and in order to understand the full totality or the full power of the aspect pattern, the shape that it makes, or like that was a poor square or a square, for example, in a chart, we will understand what those mean. And at the end of the video, wow, I fell short on this one. I will put some charts at the very end as I'm saying my goodbyes, so you can see different charts that have different shape patterns to them. And we'll just start with the video now, because I am very excited to talk about aspect patterns. And next week I will be talking about two more topics in astrology. I'm going to be talking about birth chart patterns, which means where are your planets located? Are they located in one area? Are they all over the place? That also means something. And are they on one side of the chart versus the other? That also means something. And those are patterns too. But I'll be talking about that after this video, and that's going to be next week. And then that's going to be right before I start talking about transits that same week, because in order to understand transits, you need to understand aspects. So let's talk a little bit about the aspect patterns. So you're probably just like, what are the aspect patterns? Well, they're lines, as I said, that make up shapes in the chart. You could have like a triangle, or like a kite, if you know what a kite looks like. It's like this at the top and then like that at the bottom. It's like elongated diamond. That's a good way to describe a kite. And I also mentioned when we had the lunar eclipse that there was a yud, or like a finger of God pattern. Well, I'm also going to be talking about that. There are so many more patterns out there, like a working trine, some other things like a tree. Yeah, it's a weird name, but it's shaped like a tree. Kind of reminds me of a Christmas tree because it's like pointy. But anyway, I'm not going to be talking about those two specifically, because the book that I've referred to did not cover those. So therefore, I'm not covering them, nor am I familiar with them, and I don't think I've ever seen them in the chart. Patterns like that, they're like a lot of aspects interacting with each other. And as I said earlier, the more planets and asteroids you add into the chart, the more lines and aspects you get. So therefore, these complex shapes will start showing up even more than the basic shapes that I'm talking about today. So to describe about an aspect pattern, for example, we have an aspect, we're going to say an opposition, two complete opposites, but they're able to get along with each other because they share the common goal in mind. They just have two different ways going against it. Maybe the way that they're able to accommodate is we have these two planets, and then like maybe there's like a third planet, like my head right here attached to this planet right here, and we're forming an aspect, and I'm able to help and communicate with it, and then it's able to help and communicate to this planet over here. So this is how planets communicate and interact with each other even more. So the first aspect that we're going to be talking about is called a stellium. And you're probably wondering from the last video, what's the difference between a stellium and a conjunction? Well, really they're one and the same, except the only thing that separates a stellium from a conjunction, remember a conjunction is two planets like this together, or two planets like this together, depending on how their degrees of orb of separation, where the energies don't mix and reach each other anymore, is a conjunction. So as you see in this picture right here, this looks like, I don't even know what symbol that is. I'm going to assume that's a 6. So we have 6 degrees Sun and then 5 degrees Neptune. That's a conjunction. But the conjunction isn't with the Sun at 11 degrees Neptune because that's too far away. And actually, everything in this picture, no, because that's, well, for me, exactly. You could choose how you, as an astrologer, you can choose depending on how big you want your orb of separation to be. I typically choose 5 because it's right in between, but some astrologers go between 8 to 10. Now I know 5 is just like really cutting it short, but I feel like the tighter the aspects, the more impactful it is. And especially if it's a bigger planet, the degrees can be bigger because it just has more massive energy. So in this picture, as you see, all these pictures are in a stellium. However, to better explain it, Uranus at 5 degrees is not forming a conjunction with Venus at 25 degrees because those two are way too far apart to form a conjunction. However, they are occupying the same sign and the same house. So therefore they are one in the same because they're forming a stellium. So it's like depending on how you want to look at it. Do you want to look at it at the microscopic level, which would be the conjunction, or do you want to look at it the macroscopic, which is the big picture, which is the zodiac sign? So there's 2 different ways you can look at it. So a conjunction is for smaller aspects, for smaller, tighter, more accurate descriptions, and a stellium is the big picture overview generalizing. So, to talk about another aspect, we have a grand trine, and a grand trine is 3 trines. Yes, I know, I'm saying a lot of trines in this. So, instead I'm going to call it the grand triangle because it forms a triangle. And what's so grand about this? Well, as I said in another video, there are 3 zodiacs for each of the 4 elements. So therefore, if there's 3 trines, that means all 3 of the element signs. In this picture we have water. In this picture we specifically have the fire signs because Sagittarius is connected to Aries and Aries is connected to Leo, and those are fire signs. So this is a grand triangle of fire. And in that sense, if you want to look at that, you could determine what kind of energy this holds depending on the element. And now a trine is planets that get along with each other because they share same values, and because they share the same values, they can exchange their energies easily and form talents, because trines are all about talents that are inside of you because your energy just flow easy and it's not a blockage, so it's easy for you to tap into. However, a trine can also be negative in a sense because it's a positive aspect, but too much of anything can be a bad thing. So a negative about a trine is that even though this might be like a natural talent that you have, and as you see, it's reaching different parts of your houses in your chart. So that means different areas of your life are able to come together and work and help this talent. But this talent is something you don't have to work at, so therefore you can get lazy with it. You could overuse it, or you could just not use it at all, and it's just like a talent that goes away. Because, practice makes perfect. If you're not using it, you lose it. So that's what the grand triangle aspect pattern is about. It just shows you where your natural talent is and how you can use these parts of your life. For example, use your personality and having fun, but also finding depths within that and trying to transform can give you something different. And that was just talking about the houses specifically and not the zodiac signs. So if you want to look at the zodiac signs, well, we have fire, air, water, and earth. So fire means you're strong in passion and drive, you're a go-getter. If you're strong in air, you're able to communicate with others and get your point across. If it's in water, you have the ability to connect with others emotionally, be empathetic, but also able to go to the depths and really search what it is about humanity that makes humanity. And then you have earth, and if you're strong in earth and you're loyal, you're able to think clearly, and you're much more practical in whatever approach you take. So we have a minor grand trine or a minor grand triangle, and this has only one trine and two sextiles. Now these two aspects that I was trying to describe in the last video sound very similar to each other, so I'm going to break down why the two are different in a sense. The only difference between a trine and a sextile is that a sextile, you appreciate putting the energy into growing the talent. So you just don't use the talent because it's easy. You have to actually put some effort into it and achieve the talent that you want. For example, let's see, somebody that's an artist. There's people that are just naturally gifted at drawing. And then there's people that have sextiles where they can draw, but they just have to work at it more if they want to be a more improved drawer. It's basically like you have the talent, but you just have to put into the talent for it to grow. And that's what a sextile is, and that's how it separates from a trine, because a trine is a talent you just don't have to put effort into. It's like a second nature. It's like blinking. You don't have to think to blink, so you don't have to think to use a trine talent. And together, this relieves the stress, because as I said, a grand trine, this big triangle right here, you're not being productive, but the sextile makes you productive in a sense, because as you see this triangle in this picture, every length was equal, so you can call that an equilateral triangle. So therefore there's no point of release, even because every part is like an apex, the top, the release of energy. However, in this picture right here, this is considered the apex, because as you see, everything looks like it's lining up to this point. So therefore, that's the apex and the point of release. And what just happens to be leading up to this point of release? The two sextiles. That's why they're so short, and this long line right here is the trine. So the sextile helps the two planets that have natural talents with each other be able to release that talent and be able to manifest into the world, and also be able to enjoy the energies because you value it more, because it's a talent you almost wouldn't have used it, but now you've used it because you've put the energy into it. And also, to talk about aspects on top of aspects, these complex shapes I was talking about. A working trine is this trine with a minor trine sitting on top of it. So it's like this triangle and another triangle on top. And that means that whatever this apex point is touching, depending if it's here, here, or here, therefore one of these trines now are able to work out and get their energy released, because this energy is able to help release it. So it's like two talents working together to make one big talent. So that's one way you can think about it. And as I said, we're sticking with triangles. I tried to keep it in geometrically categorized. So continuing on, this is a complex shape. So I did touch on one complex shape in this video, and as you see right here, this green line is your grand trine, and this blue line right here makes up your minor trine. And as I said, these would be points of release, but for it to be a working trine, this apex would have to be right here, or right here, or right here. And because it's not, it's like sticking it on the bottom, as I said, an elongated diamond in a sense. And what also makes this as a kite is when you look at a kite has a backbone, and this is the backbone right here. And this is a new aspect to the triangles, and this is an opposition. But it's a good opposition because every part, and this is like a really good workout. Because this point of release, as I said, this big triangle doesn't have a point of release, but every point has a release now, because this is having a problem with this one over here because it's an opposition, but they have a same goal in mind. So therefore they're able to get along with each other by these two aspects right here, because they're a part of this aspect, but they're also a part of this. So it's like being on the borderline. You're able to see from both sides. And because these planets that are at aspects right here, a trine aspect, are able to see both sides of this minor triangle aspect and this major triangle aspect, because these two are able to see both sides of this. They're able to help these two planets that are at opposition with each other to overcome their problems, and then everybody's happy because there's no stress. So that is really great, and I think we are done with the triangles for now. Moving on to rectangles, even though you see triangles in there. But here we have two trines, which is these green lines, two oppositions, which are these red lines, and then two sextiles, which are these blue lines. You see, and together each each planet is basically talking to every other planet. And that's why these aspects are how planets communicate. So think about it, this planet right here is communicating to this planet, and that planet. So that's three different aspects. And this planet is trying to accommodate this planet over here because it's in opposition. So they're just like, we share a goal in mind, but I'm struggling to get to that goal because I have this talent right here, this sextile that I've worked to use, but also I have this other talent over here that's a trine that I really didn't put energy into growing, but it's still a talent, and I think I'm able to help adjust over here. But we have two oppositions, so therefore two oppositions means two different problems going on. So while these two planets have to deal with their own problems, the planets that they're using to help overcome their problems are having problems themselves. So it's like everybody's at a problem but trying to help each other at the same time. And through this, creative outlets to problems happen, like creative problem solving, being able to think literally outside the box. In this example, you're able to think beyond the box because you're able to see basically 4 different points, so that's 4 different perspectives, and you're able to get a bigger picture, and you're just like, I think I could come up with one perspective that accumulates all 4 of these perspectives, and that takes creative thinking and being creative. So now we have a grand cross. Yikes. No, for real, this is a real yikes, because these, oh my god, I'm sorry, just thinking about it. A square, we have 4 squares, 1 square, 2 square, 3 square, 4 square. That makes one literal big gigantic square. So we got square on square while having 2 oppositions, as we said, 2 different problems, and you're trying to approach them in basically 4 different ways. So now everybody's confused because nobody's able to get along with each other, because in a mystic rectangle, it was actually a rectangle, and the point of releases, in a sense, were these trines and sextiles, because those are positive aspects helping a negative aspect, which is an opposition. However, this is just all negative aspects. So nobody's really getting anywhere at this point. And this is where stressors can really build up in the body, because this is like no point of release. I can't even think outside the box. It's just a big problem. I'm like standing at a wall, and I'm like, I can't go over the wall. I can't dig under the wall. I can't see any other side of the wall. It's like an infinite wall. So it's like, how am I going to get across this problem? This is what a grand cross is. Facing an extreme challenge in your life that just feels like it's hard to overcome. And why is that? Is because of squares. Squares are is an aspect between 2 planets right here. And these 2 planets, A, don't know how to get along with each other, B, don't see how they can get along with each other. So they're at a standstill because they're just like, I can't do what I want to do and you can't do what you want to do. And together what we want to do is not going to work together. So how are we going to overcome this? And because we're having this problem while dealing with an opposition, it's like, I got this other problem that I think I can see the solution to, because I share a common goal with this planet over here, but I'm struggling with two other planets on trying to overcome this challenge, so therefore we're able to see eye to eye. So this is really problematic, because if you have that much stress up in your body, a grand cross, just like a square, can be sudden explosions, because as I said, it's like a fault line where tectonic plates form earthquakes because it's just too much friction. Then it's like boom, then it's like explosion. This is what a square is, and now you have a square with an opposition, so it's like square on steroids. So now you got an even bigger problem, and this is where parts of your body can start having problems because there's just so much stress. You don't know what to do with the stress, and prolonged stress to the body can lead to diseases, death, and other things. Death was a bit extreme. That should have been the last thing to list. But this is just the problem with some of the aspects, and also health a little bit. And this can also happen in just like a grand trine or like a grand triangle, the equilateral triangle where like every side is equal from each other. You're able to have, because it's 4 points, as I said, there are 4 elements, so therefore each element has a cardinal fixed mutable because it's like a season. And also because the square breaks the birth chart into 4 sections, and if you think about it, 4 sections mean 4 seasons, so therefore depending on what aspect of the season you're in, you could be in like cardinal, fixed, or mutable, beginning of the stress, in the middle of the stress, and in the end of the stress. And depending on where you are can determine how intense this energy is. Like if you're cardinal likes to move, start, and really energized. Well, if it's stuck, it's not going to work right. It's not going to be able to be an effective leader. It's going to be like a grouchy Grinch leader, if you think about it. Mr. Grinch. Or you could be fixed. So instead of trying to overcome this problem, you just stay in the problem. You're just like, I don't know how to fix this, so I'm going to just sit here in it and basically let the building burn around me, and I'm going to sit in a burning building. Or you can be mutable about it and try to find different ways to overcome it. But because you're finding different ways to overcome basically 4 different problems, and it's not going to work out right, because now there's too many different ways to go about it, and now everybody's even more confused on how to get along with each other. So, not a very fun aspect. You thought mutable would have been fun, but it was not. But you can also, this is good. This is good. This looks like a triangle too, but it's not. It's half of a square. See? It is half of a grand trine. Oh, sorry, half of a grand cross. And here, you're able to have a point of release, because as you see, there is an apex here, and it's not equilateral. It's like a working trine. Well, sorry, it's like a minor trine, where it was like it was like this instead of this. Well, this is basically what a grand cross is. It's basically half the problem, and now we're able to actually breathe and actually see a problem. And now this stress is able to leave the body, and it leaves the body through this point. And this point is, even though it's struggling to talk to these 2 points, and but the only thing that's positive about this is that these 2 points right here are forming an opposition, so therefore they have a common goal in mind, and maybe this planet right here helps them see where they are going wrong in their approaches, because this planet could be like, oh, I'm having a problem here and here. Maybe this is not the way we should go about solving our problem. So it's just like, it's just ticking off all the different ways you can go about a problem to solve a problem. And then the aspect that I was talking about earlier, the finger of God. It's very interesting to explain this one, actually, because, ooh, this, wow. Okay, so what the finger of Yud is, Yud. Yud is also a Jewish term, so hey, I did say astrology did find its roots in Jerusalem, and it was also used, incorporated into tarot. So of course Yud, actually I'm gonna look up what Yud means in Hebrew. Yud means 10. Very fitting. Means it's like the 10th letter or the 10th number in the Jewish alphabet. So it's the 10th letter in the Jewish alphabet. And 10, okay, to break it down real quick, in numerology, I will be teaching numerology later, but I'm just going to quickly tap on it. In numerology, there is no double digits, so there's only 0 to 9. And because of that, 10 is basically starting a new cycle. It's 1 with a 0 at the end. 1 is the first. 10 is basically doing the cycle over again. So here, if you think about it in that sense, these two cyan lines are considered your inconjunct or your quincunx, which means they're almost complete opposites at each other, but because they're not complete opposites of each other, they're not able to see eye to eye to each other, and they completely don't want anything to do with each other. So it's just kind of like doing your own thing, and as I said in the last video, just doing is not good because you're not A, respecting the other planet, B, you're not being able to get along with the other planet, and C, because you're just doing whatever you're doing, you're not taking into consideration how that's going to affect the other planet. But really, you just don't care. Well, the planet just doesn't care what it does to the other planet because it's just on its own time. Both planets are. That's why they're an aspect to each other. But they're able to get along with each other in a sense because they are forming a well, really, okay, to explain this one. One planet is having an inconjunct with 2 other planets. So therefore, instead of having one planet that's disregarding it, it now has 2 planets that are disregarding it. But these 2 planets are able to communicate with each other through a sextile. So maybe this planet and this planet could be like, hey, maybe we're putting a little too much stress on this planet. Maybe we should think about it. But if you think about it in that sense, when also this, it's another triangle, so therefore this is your point of release, which is the apex, which is very interesting because the planet that is having a problem with the 2 other planets is releasing this energy. So therefore it is noticeable energy if you choose to interact with it. You can consider this like a minor aspect planet because it doesn't have such a significant impact unless you are conscious about it and choose to act on it and choose to have these planets come together through this sextile, so that way this planet can stop being felt abandoned in a sense, because it feels like it's being tag teamed almost because 2 planets are just disregarding it, and it's just like, hey, I have my own feelings too. So this sextile helps release that energy in a sense. Oh, and that is the end of my aspects. Wow. As I said, there are more aspects that I can talk about, but I am not going to talk about because my book did not cover. And I did cover, ironically, one of the complex aspects, the working trine, that I said I was not going to cover in this video. But since the trine, the major trine and the grand trine were side by side, I was able to talk about it briefly in talking about complex shapes. But another, instead of finger of God, it could also be called the finger of Yud, or the finger of fate, because if you want to think about it better in the sense of instead of God, fate. What is fate? Fate is something you leave up to the universe. It's something that you believe in and just know it's going to work out for you. You know, having blind faith. So this finger of fate is like something in your life that is bound to happen and bound to manifest itself. So you're probably wondering, how's it going to manifest itself then? Through transits. A transit will be on the outskirts, and a transit could be passing this aspect that activates it, and now you suddenly feel the urge to find a resolve through here, because You're going to start seeing it leak out, and you're just like, man, what is this tension I'm feeling inside of myself? But you're also able to overcome this because, as I said, there's a sextile, and the sextiles are able to release talents and energies and come together because they really like each other, a sextile. So they're exchanging energies and producing. And this production is being released right here. So these two planets are able to come together basically and understand that they're are adding stress to the body, and therefore by fate you're going to want to overcome this stress because it's something that's destined for you to overcome in life. It's like a milestone that's like designed for you to change and overcome because it's something that your spirit really needs to go through in this life. Everything in the birth chart is about your spirit and about your soul and what you're supposed to be doing in this life. But certain aspects really like point and direct, hey, this is what your soul really wants to do in this life. So with that being said, I hope you enjoyed my aspects, and if so, if you needed more clarifications about aspect lines, the lines that make up these patterns, you can recall the video I did previously. And I will see you guys next week to talk about transits, which is activating parts of yourself that are dormant or parts of yourself that is supposed to happen years later in your life, and now you're just coming over it. Because like maybe you're a person that never got sick and now suddenly you're getting sick and you're just like, man, why am I getting sick? Or you could have been like, for this, I'm sorry, this is a really bad example. You could have cancer dormant inside you, and then something triggers it, and now you have cancer, and you're just like, man, no, there was no signs, there was no cancer in my body. I mean, biologically, there are cancer cells in your body, but they're able to kill themselves off. It's when they aren't able to kill themselves off that they become dangerous cancer cells. So something, chemistry in your body changed up that one of these cancer cells were just like broken and now they can't stop. I turned that into a biology lesson, but as to talk about transits and how things can just trigger and activate parts of your chart that were dormant, that weren't, or maybe revisiting it because it's something you need to come back to. So those are the things I'm going to be talking about in transits. And as I said, there are patterns in the chart depending on where your planets are that also shape your personality. So I will be talking about that next week. So I hope you guys stay warm, and actually next week when I talk to you, we're going to be at the end of fall. So I will see you when it's Sagittarius season. Bye!